Good morning, folks, and welcome to FYI. For your information, it is January 16th day, 2024. It is the day after, the morning after, the day before. How are you folks doing? We're trying to recover from this burden of a budget. 2024, Ghana's first $1 trillion budget. Before, clearly nothing in it for public servants, nothing in it for the poor among us, nothing in it for us poor people. Budget 2024. How are you folks doing out there? And welcome to our broadcast, wherever you're joining us from. Thanks for joining us this morning. For your information, folks, $1.146 trillion budget. How are you folks doing out there? Do let us know. Want you guys to keep getting valid and credible information. To be sure to share that live. Be sure to smash that emoji button, folks. Oh, we got some reactions to budget 2024 you're going to want to hear. So we encourage each and every one of you, Claire Alexis Chamley, Richmond, Andrew Griffith, Sharon McPherson, to share that live. We are now, Magnell Barrow, Nessa Wardine, we are now, good folks. Please and thank you. As we said, great to have each and every one of you on the live, folks. Good to have each and every one of you, fantastic folks, on the live. Magnell Barrow, Shauna Fortune, Nero DeJean, Marcia Daniels is here too. Good to have you, Marcia. All the other beautiful folks who are joining us. Great to have you all on the live this morning. Do let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. Right. Alicia, is that how it's pronounced? Alethea, we see you there. Savannah Page, Elizabeth Howard, Margaret Nelson. Margaret, some folks home, girl. Who don't know? Some folks in the 592. Want to say good morning to the Norines of Sparkle City, South Carolina. Who don't know, Margaret? Good morning to the Norines. Debbie Collins, Vanessa De Silva, Cheryl Sharota, Claire, that's 6, Chamley. Claire, how are you doing? There in New York, Claire. Shauna Fortune says loud and clear. Sheena Hazel is with us as well. Oh, what I wouldn't do for another cup of coffee. I finished the one I had. What I wouldn't do for another cup of coffee. Who know and who here? Andrew Griffith, Karen McPherson. We're going to take our time this morning and massage a couple of these issues. Good morning to Dr. Ashley Singh, who came back from Dubai. He says under very intense circumstances. Good morning to the honorable gentleman, Dr. Ashley Singh. You know he's qualified in accounting, it's not economics. Clearly, the honorable Dr. Ashley Singh, members of the PPP installed government, good morning there too. To all of you, it was the strangest thing ever in the National Assembly yesterday. This budget is being presented by the honorable member, Dr. Ashley Singh, the man from Dubai, and disquietude. And we have to spur them on, you know. Clap for your budget, man. Come on, don't leave Dr. Ashley Kumar Singh all alone here. The silence at some points were deafening. And we have to prod them and poke them in some instances, you know. Debbie Collins, Kamal Prasad is on the live and tuned in. You know, I know last year I'm going to walk, you know. You're going to get a little hold on in the part-time jobs. The 10-day work. They said they're increasing it. When they say 50,000 jobs, they say 50,000 part-time. You know, when they take, you got to ask for details. You can't take this administration by face value. We got to ask for details. And those who are partnering with us, we want to thank you. Loretta Argyle. We want to ensure that you guys keep getting valid and credible information. Tracy Clark is here as well. And Tracy says, God got him under control. Amen to that, Tracy. Amen to that. Leave them up to God, you see. Leave them up to God. So much to share with you guys. You know, so much to share with you good folks. Good morning to each and every one of you joining us on the live. Claudine Dukwa is joining us from Kokwani, the sub-region in Region 10 there. Sub-region, Region 10. Gisela Roman is on. Lynn Fernandez is in New York as well, joining us. All the foreigners, rock and come in. Naomi says, sugar is it? Sharon, sugar it is. That's where the money going. 6 billion went to sugar. 6 billion of this 1.146 trillion dollar budget. Sugar went with a big portion of it, 6 billion. And over the last 3 years, $40 billion with a capital bill went to sugar. You know how much sugar produced last year? Huh? 66,000 tons. Way under projection. And they had to revise sugar about 15 times last year. Revise the projection about 15 times. And for $40 billion, we got 66,000 tons of sugar. And we give away sugar for free. You should be able to just go in the supermarket and pick up sugar. Free of cost. Free. Because that's not a sugar industry, it's a charity we're running. Lynn Fernandez, Gisela Roman, gotta see the comments. Yolanda, Paul Greaves, Kamal Prasad. It's not a sugar industry. It's a charity we're running. You know? Those were some of the things we saw yesterday in this budget. Billions upon billions on infrastructure. Billions upon billions. The Ministry of Public Works, that focal hub for infrastructure alone went to 204 billion. And then when you add in housing, the billions there. Then did we see a 35 billion for housing? They ain't got no investors yet for the Gas to Shore project. Gas to Shore project. This is Vice President Bharat Jagdeo's pet project. 90 billion for the Gas to Shore project. 90 billion went to the Gas to Shore project. Energy on the whole took 80 billion, or energy separately rather, took 80 billion. The energy sector went to 95. They're trying with blackouts. They're trying to end blackout. All the billion they're throwing at it. Let's see what happens over the next year. Children. Look how we're going to stay poor now. Children. 1.2 billion. Youth. 1.4 billion. Children, 1.2 billion. Youth. Oh, what they're doing to UG. They really want UG out of the way. They start up their gold scholarships. Gold scholarship program. Just the other day, fly by night. They give gold. Folks, the PP government give gold, $4 billion. And UG, an institution like UG, University of Guyana, 4.1. And then they're going to come and say that they care. They're going to come and say that they care. That's what they're going to do. We care. About who? Yolanda Thomas? Yolanda says they're not interested in human resources. Faye Navarro, good to see you. Sadie, Beryl, Lincoln, Rastaman. UG got 4.1 billion. And they're going to start their own university now. Former Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Jacob Upadei. See, can't get back to work now at UG because they voted him out as Vice Chancellor there. So now to bring him to manage Goal, and Goal gets $4 billion in University of Guyana. Our beloved university got 4.1. 4.1. Could you imagine that? 4.1. Listen to Dr. Ashley Kumar Singh, the man back from Dubai. He had run away. He said he had faced prosecution. He was weak. He was weak. He lacked the courage to stay and do what needed to be done to defend the turf. He was weak. He didn't have the testicular fortitude. Listen to him in the National Assembly yesterday. Give a broad sweep of all the billions for the boys, but the zeros for the people. And hear him announce triumphantly they're taking the national budget for the first time in the history of this country over the $1 trillion mark. 1.146 billion, trillion rather, taking over the $1 trillion mark. $1.146 trillion. Broad sweep. Take a look, folks, and take a listen.
Mr. Speaker, in the face of an onslaught of challenges, Budget 2024 stays the course and paves the way for prosperity to be built by all and for all. Mr. Speaker, if we were to dissect Budget 2024, it comprises allocations totaling $121.4 billion for wages and salaries for central government employees, including a salary increase that will be announced later this year. It includes an allocation of $40.7 billion for old age pensioners and public assistance beneficiaries. It includes an allocation of $135.2 billion for our education system to ensure every single child receives a good education. Incidentally, that includes over $9 billion worth of Because We Care and uniform cash grants alone. It includes an allocation of $129.8 billion for the health sector, including the build-out of several hospitals and telemedicine centers in communities that are currently unserved or underserved, and in our hinterland. It includes an allocation of $204.1 billion to upgrade and expand our roads and bridges and transport infrastructure, laying the foundation for long-term economic growth, while also bringing relief to commuters and residents today. It includes an allocation of $95.7 billion for the energy sector in order to ensure that we can double our electricity production, reduce the cost of electricity by a half, and make blackouts finally an artifact of the past. It includes an allocation of $78 billion to roll out our national housing program and ensure that every single Guyanese family can ultimately own their own home. It includes an allocation of $72.3 billion to finance the upgrade of our D&I infrastructure so that we can grow sufficient food and reduce the risk of flooding, both in farms and in homes. Mr. Speaker, this is Budget 2024. a budget that will improve the lives of each and every single Guyanese citizen. Speaker, again, entirely financed by no new taxes. Budget 2024 is 46.6% larger than Budget 2023 and totals 1.146 trillion Guyana dollars. The biggest budget ever and exceeding the $1 trillion mark for the very first time in our country's history.
There you have it, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh. The Dubai Remembrance, presenting budget 2024, $1.146 trillion. Billions for the boys. Wages and salaries to be announced later. To be announced later. You know, the folks who are watching the numbers tell us that line item for the budget that they pay salaries from has a marginal increase. Marginal. So don't expect no razzle-dazzle in December, in November of 2024 when they announce any increases in salaries. Don't expect anything big because the line item that salaries are paid from has a small increase. This is not even 1% proper increase from last year's allotment, last year's allocation, last year's appropriation. So don't expect. So salaries, you heard the Right Honorable Minister of Finance. He says that is going to be announced later this year. That's November, December. Old age pension increased by $3,000. Public assistance increased by $3,000. That's what the people deserve. But the boys will get the billions. Youth, 1.4 billion. Children, 1.2 billion. Pittance, folks. Pittance for the ordinary citizens of this country. Pittance. As we're on the sidelines of the reading of the national budget of Guyana 2024 yesterday, we saw to get some of the views of the members of parliament who we could touch base with very quickly. Take a listen, folks, and take a look. This is the Shadow Minister for Home Affairs, former Minister of Public Security, now Home Affairs, and leader of the Alliance for Change, Kemraj Ramjadan. Take a look. Initial reactions.
Look, I came here with great expectations, thinking that indeed with all the oil monies and the fact that Guyana is the 10th richest country in the world per capita, that we're going to have a better deal, especially for working poor. My expectations were dashed completely. I saw in this budget a lot of the monies going towards infrastructural works. And indeed, we're going to have lots of infrastructural works from schools, health, roads, and all of that. But if you do not do the correct thing of balancing the incomes or the socioeconomic positions of the people, especially the working people, you are not going to have a satisfied society. More people are still going to want to go to that passport office and then to the American embassy to get out of the place. And to the extent then I did not see anything much for working poor, and even worse still, that $3,000 for pensioners and the minimum where you have for medical relief, even for eye care and all of that, it goes to show that this government has no care for the ordinary Guyanese. It has for, and it is lavishing monies to its contractor, crony capitalists that we have here, which word they use in the budget to describe as entrepreneurs. We know where all those hundreds of billions of dollars are now going to go. And especially in the context of so many substandard contracts, there will be a rip-off from this budget. I want to say that, we stand in the Alliance for Change and in the coalition with the APNU for shared prosperity. This budget is a very distant thing from shared prosperity here in Guyana. We are not going to end poverty and hunger and hopelessness with budgets like these. We're not going to do that. We're going to have more and more people getting vexed, and especially PPP support bases now. Because quite frankly, with all that money, I see that they are going to be quarreling with them. Our public servants haven't gotten a good deal. And what we didn't even hear them mention anything about the public servants. What this government does, indeed, it puts a lump sum for public servants. But then on the 12th hour, literally every year, then they give them. People are suffering now because of that scandalously lying inflation rate they talk about, 2%. It is not 2%. That inflation rate is a lot of crap. They must understand that people know 2 years ago, a slice of pumpkin was $100. Now is what? $1,000. What's a pound of chicken? What a pound for meat and fish and all of those things? The prices have skyrocketed in the supermarkets and in the markets all across and shops and so on. So when they are going to give the impression that they are for the poor people, they are not. I want to make mention that they're falsely claiming too that the cost got to do with a lot of exogenous factors. COVID, since COVID days, and then the war in Ukraine, and all manner of other things. Look, Guyanese, if given a proper salary or wages, are going to do better. And that will take them out of this impoverished state. I always like to quote back their founder leader in this PPP government, Chedi Jagan. He always say a concentration of affluence begets more affluence, and a concentration of poverty is going to beget more poverty. This is what this budget will do. The rich will get richer in this country, and the inequality between the rich and the poor, the inequalities in this country, that is the distance between rich and poor, is going to magnify and amplify. This budget does not do anything to help in that regard. Their priorities too are wrong. Priorities, I could understand infrastructural works are needed, but you got to do the balancing act. Take, for example, like in the police and the public sector area. You're going to build quite a lot of police stations and rehabilitate others, but you have not done also the other thing to the policemen, who are largely constables being with a minimum wage, literally. And what kind of investigations they're going to do on a salary that can't mind themselves, their children, their wife, and also pay the rents and all of that. You're going to have all manner of ugly habits persisting as a result. I want to say also that there was a point that was made in relation to education. Education too. You're only spending $4 billion in your University of Guyana, and you're going and pour over $6 billion to Gaisuco. Why you want the children of the sugar estates to continue to cut cane and fetch it to the pond? What kind of mentality is that? You need to do lots more to ensure that these children of the estates come out of that poverty-strickenness and get into the University of Guyana, get training, skills training. As the minister mentioned, we need more plumbers, we need more masons, we need so many other things. And yet it's pumping money for sugarcane workers to get money so that they can go and cut cane and fetch cane. That is atrocious. They don't like their people, quite frankly, or they like them in that state of uneducatedness, because they can then go and put a lot of lies in their heads and tell them that, that is good for you. They close down the estate and so on. We had also a motive for closing it down, because we want to wean people away from that estate kind of life. I don't want my brethren in quarantine to just be cutting pay. But you know, this is what they do. Gaisuko, of course, will be getting a further $6 billion. As I have indicated, Gaisuko ain't got a future. But they're going to pump at least $6 to $7 billion into Gaisuko again this year. It is a black hole. It is wrong priorities. But these people seem not to care. And that is the kind of first impressions that I had in relation to this budget. But we're going to deal with a lot more issues. Clearly, the relief for the poor, pensioners, students, university students is not there. The relief is not there. Look at that, $3,000 the pensioners can get. What the $3,000 can buy? 3 slices of pumpkin? It's a shame. And the 10th richest country in the world with a natural resource fund that is billions of US dollars, never before. The point should be made that in the coalition government, we had 5 budgets that come up total 1.2 billion or thereabouts. Trillion, sorry, I made a mistake. 1.1 trillion Guyana dollars. In this budget, and you know what we did with that 5 separate budgets? We increased salaries and wages by over 26%. What have they done in this one here? We don't even know about salaries increases. And then they're going to, as I said, leave it at the very bottom end of the year. When the people would have been suffering from January to November, then December, they're going to say, yes, we're going to give you an increase. That's not how you run country, especially a poor country of Guyana. Poor meaning with the salary levels and so on. We got plenty money. We must make a better deal for Guyana. And those are the initial points I wish to make at this stage.
Yep, that was the initial reaction from the leader of the Alliance for Change, Comrade Ramjatan, on budget 2024, $1.146 trillion. Yeah, and you heard that point that was made earlier, folks, that Ashley Kumar Singh, the man from Dubai, didn't have the courage to stay, but he wants to voice this burdenous budget, if I might coin a word on us. He wants to tell us, as he did yesterday, that inflation is 2%. The inflation rate is at 2%. Do you believe that? Huh? 2%. My God. He said consumer prices have risen by 3%. Outpacing inflation. That's the point to be made. You shop in the market every day, folks. Kamal and Debbie and Kishan, Forbes, Marcia, your guys are out there. NIS, $3,000 increase. Scamran says, 2 slices of pumpkin. You can buy with that. 2 slices of pumpkin. Billions for the boys. And I see some of you already indicating they're coming back for more for Gaisuko. Coming back for more for sugar. That's been the pattern. Biggest budget ever. January, February. By July, August, supplemental. And then in November, December, another supplemental. That's the pattern. They haven't changed. They say there's something in there for adjustments in salaries. But they don't announce it. Something is in there to cushion the cost of living, the high cost of living under their administration. But they don't announce it. They care, but they're going to wait until November, December to announce what are these policies and provisions. What is the program, the suite of measures to curtail the high cost of living. That's what's going to happen. But they care. You know, under the last administration, the PPC, the People's Progressive Party, Civic, use tax, you can eat roads. Doesn't the same question apply? And more so now than ever. At least you heard Kemrat say, every year under the coalition government, you knew in the budget what public servants were getting. Cumulatively, public servants got over 30% raise in salaries. This administration condemned the 50% for ministers, but they kept it, having assumed office. And on top of that, give themselves a raise. They got the 6.52. And you calculate 6.5 on the minimum wage and 6.5 on a minister's salary of 1 point something million. And you see the difference. You look at the difference. But we're still gauging reactions from members of parliament, and we want you guys to hear from the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform. We want you to hear from him, Mr. The Honorable Member of Parliament, Sherwin Holer, and his initial reactions to Budget 2024. Take a look, take a listen.
It's a huge disappointment. Many of the things that we have been advocating for the last 12 months and even beyond that, most of it, if not all, has not materialized in this budget. For example, we would have been calling for an increase of the tax threshold to be moved from $85,000 to $150,000. That didn't materialize. We called for 50% increase in the minimum wage. That also didn't materialize. We called for removal of taxes from the lower bracket income workers. That didn't materialize. We called for removal of VAT from items manufactured in Guyana. That didn't materialize. And a whole host of other things, measures that we thought, or we continue to believe that will, if implemented, will help Guyanese, especially the poor and working poor, tremendously. So it's a huge disappointment. In the 2024 budget, let me put it in the context. Let me give you some more information. This is a $1.146 trillion budget. That represents a 47% increase, or we could say nearly 50% increase from the last budget. It also represents a sum that is equivalent or almost equivalent to the entire 5 years of the AFC combined. And so when you come with a budget of that magnitude and you decide that you can only give a $3,000 to our pensioners, that you know these are people that are unemployed, that looking to depend on that little cash for their daily survival, and given all the increase in the cost of living and everything that is happening, inflation and everything, $3,000 mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing. $3,000 again for the public assistance. These are the poorer class people. Somebody in public assistance is somebody that definitely needs help. And so $3,000 is what this government is extending to these people. It reminds me of what happened or the recently announced 6.5%. We were able to give 26%, Sherrod. In the first year, I believe, or in 1 year at least, we were able to give an increase to the lowest bracket workers, the lowest bracket income people with the lowest income, 26% increase. These guys offered 6.5 last year. They can't say how much they will offer this year, although they have a 1 point something trillion dollar budget. You know, so it's really disappointing. What you would recognize too from the minister's speech is that everything is surrounding oil. All the growth that they're talking about, it surrounds oil. Coal, which was our one of the major, if not the major, income earner for many, many, many years, suddenly is on the back burner. It continues to decline every single year, and these guys are comfortable with that. Bauxite, the same obtains with bauxite. Bauxite has also decreased, and so we're not doing very well in the other areas. If the growth that we're seeing is mainly based on oil. Even in the non-oil sector, the growth that they're projecting is based on oil. Is because of oil and because of the contractual arrangements that allow them to benefit the way they are from our oil. Now there are some information that came from the minister that really annoyed me as well, because they tried to insult people's intelligence. They think that Guyanese are foolish and they don't know what is going on. For example, they said that inflation is at 2%. Who believes that? Nobody. You talk to the ordinary people in the street, they will never believe something like that. Another point they made was that the cost of food prices increased by only 3.8%. Ridiculous. Who believes that? Who believes that? They really believe that they could hoodwink people into believing these nonsense. Now, let's make some other comparisons. You're giving these pensioners and these low-level persons a meager, crumbs they're getting. $3,000 here, $2,000. Three seem to be the figure of the day. But on the other hand, you go and you give to guys who do $6 billion. And I call that a startup because I'm very, very certain that there will be other supplemental budgets, and they will come from tens of millions, hundreds of millions again, if not billions, for guys who in terms of the University of Guyana, we were expecting some major announcement. The president is on record saying something as though there would be some major announcement towards free education. Barjagdio, same obtained with him. But in the end, nothing except that with the meager sum given to the university, you see the online classes getting around the same amount. So this is on campus against online, and you were giving them, I think it's 4 billion, somewhere in the vicinity of $4 billion. That is ridiculous. We have one university, one local university. We've got to invest. We've got to give them the resources to make them into something, make them into a world-class institution in oil and gas. Look, that brings me to another point in oil and gas where they're trying to bring people. The minister claimed that they're investing in the Port Morant training center, and they're going to train 25 persons for 6 months, and then they will be ready for the oil and gas industry. I don't know what they will be studying in 6 months that would make them so competent to work in the oil and gas industry. If you have a welding certificate now, from wherever you get it, it still doesn't qualify you to go and work in the oil industry like that. You gotta go through certain training for this industry. So I don't know who they're trying to kid about it. And 25, and think about the number, 25 for 6 months, that's what, 50 a year? When are we going to finish? When are we going to train our people? Gerard, there is a lot more that we can get into as we analyze this budget over the next few days. But let me say this again. It is a colossal disappointment. $1 trillion in disappointment. Believe what I'm saying. The people will certainly be unhappy about this budget.
Yep, you heard that, folks. We were unpacking the $1.146 trillion Guyana budget 2024, and some very, very solid points being made there by the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform and my parliamentary colleague, Mr. Sherwin Holder, the Right Honorable. Marcia, well done. Is there anything there for you? Marcia Jackman, is there anything there for you? Barbara McDonald, Neon Harding, what are your thoughts of budget 2024? And Elizabeth Kitt, Arvin Don Cook, Pam Walls, Rishi, how are you folks doing? What are your own thoughts of budget 2024? It's a lot, folks, to unpack, and we won't be able to do all in one program. We are going to have subsequent program in which we kind of, open this budget up more and show you the anatomy of it, what is going where, and who is going to benefit. We're now faced with a whole bunch of stalled projects. Money is missing, corruption, rampant. As we heard there, we thought we'd hear some major announcements for the University of Guyana. We heard a shock announcement. Right? A shock announcement, if anything, but nothing major thus far. What's in this budget for the ordinary man? What's in it? Amabel Clemens says, biggest budget, still poverty high. That's what we have to rationalize. Folks, let's take now initial reactions from the chairman of the Alliance for Change, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Kathy Hughes. Let's take her thoughts on budget 2024. Take a listen. Take a look.
Budget 2024 was really, really disappointing. In many respects, I think it was a slap in the face of Guyanese. When you think about it, this budget, according to the Minister Ashley Singh, is a $1.46 trillion budget. And imagine, he actually stated, I'm looking down so I give precise information, $1.154 billion US is what we expect to collect in a lift from our oil. And that's going to be withdrawn, that's going to be access to funds Guyana will earn from our National Resource Fund. $1.154 billion US. And you give pensioners an increase from $30,000, $33,000 in old age to $36,000, you're actually saying that you are giving pensioners $3,000 more each month, and you think that is acceptable? And here we're talking about what all Guyanese know have been part of the challenges we faced as a country in the last 12 months. We know that the inflation rate last year was over 6%. They're claiming now that the inflation rate is 2%. The reality is that we all know from the newspaper reports, Stabrook News interviews of Guyanese of all walks of life, the extent to which cost of living went up. We know how pumpkin went up. We know how Bora went up. And so it is really unacceptable that this budget does so little for people, for Guyanese. NIS has gone up from 35,000 to 43,000. What I'm trying to say is that given the money that we finally have from our oil and gas industry, more of it should have been allocated to the pockets of Guyanese people. So the income tax threshold, thankfully, makes a jump from 85,000 to 100,000. That's good. But really, when we look at some of the other key issues and just the approach Ashley Singh took to this budget, he kept saying that they're going to stay the course. And in fact, they stayed the course because what they've done is continue a process whereby they give extensive amounts of money to infrastructure projects and less to ordinary people. So, for example, it was disappointing the way Ashley Singh was screaming and shouting, ranting and raving. I couldn't help but think of international investors that would have been listening to this budget, looking for policy, looking for information on what we're going to be doing, how we're going to spend in this 2024. And the fact that it was just so visceral, the way the presentation itself was made. We had a whole set of screaming and shouting about tourism arrivals, for example. And he actually said that tourism has taken a dramatic takeoff. And what does he say? Tourism arrivals in Guyana in 2019, in 2023, went from 319,000 roughly. But what we know is that in 2019, tourism arrivals were $315,000. So it went in 2019 to 319,000. So let's digest this. That's nothing to show. That's nothing to talk about, because you're talking about an increase in tourism arrivals that's not more than 4,000 to 5,000 persons. And this is at a time when we know, because of the oil and gas industry, we have a high influx of people coming to Guyana to work on the ship and investors coming. So really, when you say that we've taken off in tourism, the increase is really minor. We talk about, again, the hospitality school, and that money that is going to be spent, over 530 million. And again, this is something that was going to be put in place in 2023, 2022, and of course, 2021, we know we had issues in COVID. So really, what is sad is that at the end of the day, the worst case, which is a demonstration of their commitment to training and to education in this country, you agree to give UG $4.1 billion, right? This is UG that has campuses, that has buildings, that has administrative staff, that has lecturers, that all departments, that all have to be paid. There's a cost factor there. And you give UG $4.1 billion, and then you give the Gold Scholarship $4 billion. How could that be acceptable? Gold, where everything is done online, where the cost of implementing that program is of no comparison to what poor UG has to spend. So these are the realities. At the end of the day, less money is put in the pockets of ordinary Guyanese. Really, really unacceptable.
Yeah. There is the chairman of the Alliance for Change and the Honorable Member of Parliament, Kathy Hughes, walking us through very systematically aspects of the National Budget 2024. $1.146 trillion. Is there anything in it for you? I know a lot of you from the comments we're seeing here, Ray and Anne-Marie, Alexis Williams, Forbes and Vashti, very concerned, but that old age pension, among other things, imagine $3,000. $1.146 trillion, $3,000. That is it. That is it. Listen to Dr. Ashley Singh, Kumar Singh, the man from, is it Saudi Arabia? UAE, Dubai, the man from Dubai. Yeah. He had the courage to stay with his comrades and fight. You see? Half a man. Many regard. Half a man. 1.146 trillion. Here I make the announcement. But old age pension. And for the minimum old age pension that is payable, and that increase as well. Folks, take a look and take a listen to the Honorable Minister on the NIS increase.
Mr. Speaker, we remain committed, sir, to improving the benefits received by our pensioners, and in this regard, with effect from 1st of January 2024, old age pension will be increased from $33,000 to $36,000 per month. This reflects, sir, a 75% increase in old age pension since we resumed office in 2020. And it will benefit 76,000 persons, placing an additional $2.7 billion in the hands of our senior citizens. Mr. Speaker, The current minimum pension paid by NIS is $35,000 monthly. I wish to announce that with effect from the 1st of January 2024, the new minimum NIS pension will be $43,075, which will result in a $2.6 billion transfer of additional disposable income to the benefit of over 27,000 persons.
Yeah, that is the finance minister, or rather, to be accurate, is the minister with responsibility for finance within the office of the president, Dr. Ashwini Kumar, saying on the question of the NIS increase. There was also, I think this might interest some of you as well. You know, lots of folks apply for NIS, but then they find out that the place they used to work have not either submitted NIS for them, or more in particular, they can't find, NIS cannot locate the NIS contributions, and that company may have been closed down. Here is an announcement on that front that should interest you. Take a look, folks.
One-off grant. Mr. Speaker, the NIS continually engages with persons who have attained the age of 60 and have not met the minimum requirement of 750 contributions to qualify for the receipt of an old age pension. In many instances, the previous employers have gone out of business or have closed down, rendering it impossible for alternative means of verification that deductions were made and paid over to the NIS. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of bringing these matters to closure, we will offer persons with contributions ranging from 700 to 749. It will be recalled that the qualifying number of pensions is 750. We will offer eligible persons with contributions ranging from 700 to 749 an option to accept as full and final settlement a one-off grant depending on the year in which their last contribution was made. We expect that this intervention can benefit over 3,800 persons at a cost of $550 million. The NIS, nevertheless, remains committed to working diligently to resolving all pending claims.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. That announcement of the one-off grant for those persons who are captured there. You know, somehow your contributions have gone missing from that company that you used to work for. Somehow it's gone missing. And here is budget reactions from the Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Ganesh Mahipal. Budget 2024, the biggest budget ever, $1.146 trillion, the biggest ever to date.
I expected budget 2024 to be one that would have catered for the ordinary citizens of Guyana, because over the years of the People's Progressive Party, we saw a constant raise in cost of living that really had a tremendous effect on the ordinary and vulnerable people. So my expectation was that we would have seen the vulnerable benefit significantly from budget 2024. Unfortunately, that is not so. It is most shameful that our old age pension was just increased by $3,000, our public assistance by just $3,000 in $1 trillion budget. And what came to mind was when I did that comparison about where the coalition took humanitarian approach in budgets over a 5-year period in comparison to the PPP's 5-year period. It was really a failure from the People's Progressive Party. Look at minimum wage, for example. Over the 5 years period of the APNU AFC, we increased minimum wage to we increased it by $30,000 over that 5 years period. Our budgets it began at $230 billion and it ended at $300 billion. And we managed to give a 30,000 minimum wage increase. The People's Progressive Party, for their equivalent 5 budgets, And this one being $1 trillion+, they have only increased within that 5 budget period by $15,000. So clearly they have no consideration for the ordinary man. Clearly they do not want to make the ordinary man feel real and empowered. And it is only for their friends, families, and favorites. For the ministry that I shadow at this parliamentary level, I took a quick scan through of the numbers and I do not see that there is any program that will help in making communities more sustainable, making communities more friendly, making people's lives more comfortable in this $1 trillion budget. And I believe that the focus of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development should have been one that catered for sustainable communities and making the lives of people more comfortable. For me, this budget was a total failure from what we expected. Everybody were glued to their television sets, hoping that they would have heard something that could have benefited them, the ordinary people. And the sad reality is that we have a budget that is in place here only to benefit friends, families, and favorites of the People's Progressive Party.
All right, again, that was Ganesh Mai Paul. The Honorable Member of Parliament shadows the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And you heard that bit on the minimum wage. The last administration compared to this one. And look, the size of the budget. Interesting, folks. You tuned into Initial Reactions Budget 2024 and you tuned into FYI. Valid and credible information all the time. Ensure you share the live. Smash that emoji button as well. That helps to get out to more places, folks, that others can benefit too from valid and credible information. We want to turn attention to what the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and her reactions to Budget 2024. Biggest budget ever, folks. The Honorable Amanda Walton Desir had some thoughts as well. Take a listen.
My initial reaction to Budget 2024, the words that come to mind, disrespectful. It is so disrespectful to the people of Guyana, despicable. Like I said earlier, I was waiting to be surprised by the PPPC administration, but alas, that was not to be. More of the same is my reaction. Infrastructure heavy budget, more than half of it, over 50% on infrastructure. And those interventions necessary for human development, almost non-existent. You raise the income tax threshold by $15,000 in $1 trillion budget. You raise the old age pension and public assistance by $3,000. Shared a burger and JR Burgers is $2,000. So I say that for context of exactly how much these increases will impact the lives of the people of Guyana. It will not make a substantial impact. I am deeply, deeply disturbed because what we have seen here is a government that continues to demonstrate its lack of care for just the people of Guyana. And you saw Ashley saying it was the poorest budget presentation I've ever seen. Descending into ad hominems and going off track. And I realized, you know what? Very early I realized they don't have anything to offer us. They don't have anything to offer to the people of Guyana. This is why they're engaging in all of these politically maybe advantageous song bites, because the budget lacks substance. We called for the decrease in VAT. They removed VAT off of sporting equipment and some technology, cell phones, etc. Whatever happened to lowering VAT on food items? This government does not seem to understand that people are having a difficulty feeding themselves in this country. A slice of pumpkin is $1,000 in the market. And you sit there and you are wondering, are these people for real? And then they come with all of the language to couch the fact that all this budget has done is get more money into big business, is continue to benefit their friends and family, and neglect the poor and working class. The University of Guyana, like I said earlier, is neglected. Can you imagine a university with physical campuses? They're given the same amount of money as an online scholarship program. What are we doing? And it is so absurd to me that they would stand there and try to defend this indefensible budget. It's indefensible. It is absolutely indefensible. And I want to repeat, when election time comes, I hope the people of Guyana remember that when we needed it the most, this government abandoned us. They didn't touch the minimum wage in $1 trillion budget. And this is what I want people of Guyana to understand. Cost of living has skyrocketed, and you're passing $1 trillion budget and no meaningful interventions. You have allocated $7 billion, and you've not indicated how it will be apportioned. You have to study it. The same thing they did last year. We would have shown 2 or 3 budgets ago how, with the slightest of adjustments, they could provide a 10% salary increase. They could provide free university education. They could provide, it was support for the frontline workers, etc. We showed it. So this is not something that we are thinking of or imagining. We showed how it could be done. And now you have $1 trillion budget. And Guyanese old age pensioners have a $3,000 increase and a $3,000 increase in the public assistance. I am always happy to see the Because We Care cash grant being increased, but again, that's a one-off payment. And when that is done, that is done. And actually, it ends up back in the hand of big businesses because it has to be spent as soon as it is received. And so, yes, we're happy for it, but what we're seeing are not interventions that are geared towards improving the quality of life of Guyanese. It is geared towards big business, geared towards concrete, more of the same, and the people of Guyana continue to be taken for granted by this government. But like I said, they are arrogant, and the people of Guyana will hold them to account for that arrogance.
I love what the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and his National Cooperation says there. Budget needed to directly impact the lives of Guyanese. Cost of living sky high, folks. You know who else made this point abundantly clear? The Shadow Minister of Finance. She has the responsibility of shadowing Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, who presented this $1.146 trillion budget. But nothing, it seems, for the ordinary man. Take a look, Sean of Fortune. Levy go! Naomi Drucker, Robin Morgan, Ainsworth Mason, Arundon, Cook, and Andrew Gifford. Take a look, take a listen what Member of Parliament Jarita Finance said about Budget 2024.
Initial reaction to Budget 2024. Well, prior to hearing the budget and the budget presentation there by Ashley Singh, what I did say is that I expect the budget to be over $1 trillion, given the fact that the budget for 2023, those expenditures totaled over $900 billion for the year. So as I expected, the budget was presented and the budget was indeed over $1 trillion. The budget of 2024 is $1.146 trillion. And what is important for persons to note is that the entire 5 years of the APNU AFC in government, the budget, the 5 budgets from 2015 to 2019 for the APNU AFC administration total $1.2 trillion. So it is very close. I think just 100 and something billion dollars difference. Now, guys, why is this important for you to note? In a budget that for 2024, that total 5 budgets for the entire period of the coalition government in office, the PPP administration could not put one increase to the minimum wage in this budget. In this budget, the PPP administration literally stood, Dr. Ashley Singh stood in National Assembly and he said, and he boasted about increases in wages and salaries by 23%. since they got into office from 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that in one single budget for the 5-year period of the coalition, one single budget alone, 1 year, the coalition government increased wages and salaries by 26%. These are the comparisons that we need to be making right now. So to give increases of $3,000 to public assistance and $3,000 to old age pension is an insult to persons, and we cannot actually push it aside. But I want to say, when the budget presentation started, Dr. Ashley Singh said, and he said, stay in the course. That is a theme for Budget 2024. They're staying the course. And true to his word, the PPP has stayed the course. They have provided no real measures to alleviate the punishment of the lower class in society. And they are staying the course proudly, boldly. And I'm telling you this also, when it comes to the gold mining sector, guys, I want to add in this really quickly because we're just doing the initial reactions, and I have to say there's a whole lot. But gold mining, let me tell you, gold mining actually decreased by 11.2%. And why is it so important? Gold is one of, before we had oil, gold was it. We heavily depended as an economy on gold. Under the coalition administration, we had gold declarations skyrocketing. Now under this PPP administration, since they came back into office, the gold declarations continue to decline. And I keep saying, this is as corrupt can be, and they are doing absolutely nothing towards making sure that the declaration increases, because you all know who are the players in that industry. Guys, bauxite fell again, and we can go through all of these things. We will be going through in subsequent programs as the days go on. Okay, so I know a lot of persons are talking about the education. It's absolutely important for us to touch a bit on the education sector. It is an insult to University of Guyana to give $4.1 billion to them when you are given $4 billion to gold. It's an insult. I don't know how the University of Guyana is going to be responding to this, and I'm hoping that they're going to put out some kind of statement to actually defend their track record as a university and why they should be treated with a little bit more respect, as opposed to basically leveling them off with online universities, because it's not just one university. I can also say that there's $9 billion that's allocated to the Amerindian Development Program. And I want to say this to the indigenous communities out there. $9 billion allocated to this program sounds great. It's a good allocation, and the number sounds good. But I want to remind persons that the problem that we have with this fund is that these monies oftentimes do not reach to these communities because it is stolen for... That's the best way I can put it. It is stolen by players within the administration. We have had cases, and I want to remind persons that it was in 2002 that $3.1 billion was put into the Amerindian Development Fund, and then it was removed out of that fund and placed into the Amerindian Purpose Fund. And the Amerindian Purpose Fund don't have an opening balance. It doesn't have a closing balance. The only inflows into that in the cash book that they have was over $300 million, and only outflows was over $90 million. It is as corrupt can be. Major investigations need to be done there. So whilst we've seen the $9 billion and it sounds all nice and good, we have to question whether or not the indigenous people is actually going to be benefiting from any of these allocations. So very, very important things to know there. As I said, the old age pension from $33,000 to $36,000. I don't understand how Ashley Singh had the temerity to stand there and actually say those words when the budget that he's presented is $1.1 trillion. The very first time in the history of our country, you are having a budget over $1 trillion, but $3,000 increase to the old age pension. Public assistance, the same thing, like I said. Now, guys, it is absolutely necessary for you to understand that we were asking for the income tax threshold to be increased to $150,000. Today, in the announcement in the budget, the income tax threshold was actually increased by $15,000. But what is super important for you to understand is that when there is actually no adjustment in the minimum wage, we have no real benefit being given to the minimum wage earners in the country. So again, the budget fails to address measures and put measures in place that's going to be beneficial to the most vulnerable persons in society. And I have to say that the PP administration, they continue to not see the need to heavily invest in the most vulnerable in society. They continue to make sure that the capital intensive budget that they push it's coined in such a manner that their friends and families will be benefiting the most. And lastly, as I go, my last initial reaction is that the PPP administration has boldly announced there that they will be coming back into the National Assembly to further increase the ceiling, increase the debt ceiling. So what they're saying to you is that yes, we're getting more money. Yes, the oil and gas sector is booming, but they are going to be going out there and borrowing more every single year. So that's it from me for my initial reactions, and I'll keep going as the days go on.
Those were some initial reactions to budget 2024 that stands at $1.146 trillion. The borrowing and spending. What do you, the people of this great country of ours, have to show for it? How things by your end? And that's going to do it for us at this end, folks. Until we catch you guys on the next broadcast. Good to see you, Maxine Monroe and Shelby Sherry, Colin, Michael Smart, and Andrew Griffith, and all the other folks that joined our broadcast. Folks, smash that emoji button this morning. We got hundreds of you on the live broadcast from our end. And we see Miss Argyle is here, Loretta Argyle. We got Carton Smith. Let me go as well. Shelby, Sherry, Shelby. Naomi Druck is here as well. Folks, we're going to see you guys on the next one. Valid, credible information. Remember also to partner with us, folks, so that we can do more broadcasts like these. Valid, credible information all the time. We're going to have some more responses from our members of parliament in the coming days, and more interrogation of the budget in general as well. Thanks for joining us this morning. That's going to do it for us at this end. That's going to do it for us at this end. Chambi Gibbs and Loretta Gibbs and all the other folks, all the Gibbs. Loretta Kyle is here as well. And last 2 weeks, stay safe, guys. Until the next one.